Greetings class, Dr. Morrison here. Welcome to the Copyright and Intellectual Property virtual class. This is the first of 3 videos. The way this class works is first you watch the video, then you do the exercises and activities that go with the video, and then you go on to the next video. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the context of the Standing Committee on Industry, Science and Technology, or INDU's Statutory Review of Copyright Act. This is currently in progress. So, bit of context. Let's go back to 2012. At that point in time, Canada made some really bold moves for broad user rights. We saw the Copyright Modernization Act passed that year, which expanded fair dealing in many ways. More educational use, more private copying. That means things like taking music that you bought in one format and changing it to another format for your personal use. Parody and satire and non-commercial fan works became fair dealing. It wasn't entirely good news because also in the Copyright Modernization Act we saw protection for digital locks, which means that it is against the law to break a digital lock to use a copyrighted work, even if use of the work would be legal under copyright. Also in this act came the legal or statutory requirement to review the act in 5 years, hence the current copyright review. Also the same year, actually within days, we had 5 Supreme Court decisions that were largely in favor of broad fair dealing rights. This is sometimes referred to as the copyright pentalogy. We're not going to go into all of the details here, just as context for what's going on now. We saw an expansion of fair dealing users' rights in 2012. Okay, so what's going on now is that the statutory review of the Copyright Act was launched in 2018 and it is ongoing. Groups that are representing the readers and other users of copyrighted works, for example, libraries, students, and the educational sector, most of the information professions would fit into this category, are tending to want to either retain or expand the fair dealing rights that we won in 2012. On the other hand, some rights holders groups, people who are making money from copyrighted works, such as publishers and copyright collectives, tending to want to restrict fair dealing rights. It isn't always as simple as one side versus another. It's not always antagonistic. Many people are both creators and users of creative works. For example, artists and musicians need to be able to draw on the work of other artists and musicians, as well as having protection for their own works. As of October 4th, 82 briefs were submitted by groups and individuals, and 144 witnesses have appeared before the committee. What happens next? Well, INDU is still meeting, so we don't know how long that's going to go on for right now. When they're finished, the idea is that they'll have a recommendation to the government to either change the Copyright Act with suggested changes or not. It will then go on to Parliament for discussion. If Parliament agrees, it goes on to the Senate, and if Senate agrees on changes, it goes on to Crown for assent. However, it's not as simple as that, because if this process is not complete by election time in 2019, what happens is the entire thing gets set aside and we need to start over. This wouldn't be the first time that this has happened because of these intense discussions and intense interest by many parties in the area of copyright. Repetition is almost certain due to inherent contradictory interests. The chances of the government finding a balance that's going to please everyone are really, really slim, so no matter what happens, it's almost certain that there are going to be parties who want to make changes to the Copyright Act again. Next, complete the activities for video 1 and then go on to video 2.